The Constitution of the Philippines is the constitution or supreme law of the Republic of the Philippines. Its final draft was completed by the Constitutional Commission on October 12, 1986 and was ratified by a nationwide plebiscite on February 2, 1987. So, a constitution provides the basic for governance in a country, which is essential to making sure that everyone's interests and needs are addressed. It determines how laws are made and details the process by which the government rules. First is adoption, promulgation, and amendments. The Constitution is promulgated by the sovereign Filipino people. Any amendment to or revision of this Constitution may be proposed by the Congress upon a vote of 3/4 of all its members or Constitutional Convention. So, structure of the Constitution. The Constitution is divided into 18 articles: National Territory, Declaration of Principles and State Policies Principles, Bill of Rights, Citizenship, Suffrage, Legislative Department, Executive Department, Judicial Department, Constitutional Commissions, Local Government, Accountability of Public Officers, National Economy and Patrimony, Social Justice and Human Rights, Education, Science and Technology, Arts, Culture and Sports, the Family, General Provisions, Amendments or Revisions, Transitory Provisions. Form of government and basic principles of the state. So the government is a democratic and republican state. So governed by the rule of law, sovereignty resides in the people and all government authority emanates from them. Civilian authority is at all times supreme over the military. The separation of church and state shall be inviolable. The state ensures the autonomy of local governments. Basic institutions of the state and the rule of law. The legislative power shall be vested in the Congress of the Philippines, which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives, except to the extent reserved to the people by the provision on initiative and referendum. Supremacy of international law in the Philippines. Renounces was an instrument of national policy. Adopts the generally accepted principles of international law as part of the law of the land and adheres to the policy of peace, equality, cooperation, and amity with all nations.
The Philippines Constitution 1899. The political constitution of 1899, informally known as the Malolos Constitution of the First Philippines Republic, written by Felipe Calderon, Y. Roca, and Felipe Buencamino. The first Republican Constitution in Asia was adopted of the First Philippine Republic. It is written in Spanish, which was the official language of the Philippines at the time.
Philippine Constitution 1935. So, the Philippine Constitution, whether written or unwritten, is recognized as the supreme law of the land as it serves as the basis of the legitimacy of any governmental acts necessary for its existence. Right after the signing of the Treaty of Paris in Washington in 1898, that ceded the Philippines to the U.S., paying of the amount $2 million to Spain in the process, and the eruption of Filipino-American War in 1899. Our country was placed under a military government until 1901 with the passing of the Spooner Amendment, putting an end to the military rule in the Philippines and replacing it with a civil government with William H. Taft as the first civil governor. So, controversy divided the Philippine legislature with a debate on the acceptance or rejection of the hair hose cutting bill brought home by Osmeña Rojas' mission from the U.S. Congress in 1931, which provided for a 10-year transition period before the granting of Philippine independence. On October 17, 1933, Quezon and others triumphed in this battle as the Philippine legislature rejected the bill. So, the organization of Constitutional Convention that would draw up the fundamental law of the land basis on the American model was one of the salient provisions of the Tidings-McDuffie Act. And the 1935 Constitution, which featured a political system virtually identical to the American one, became operative. The system called for a president to be elected at large for a 4-year term a bicameral Congress, and an independent judiciary.
The 1973 Constitution of the Philippines, as amended on October 16 to 17, 1976, on January 30, 1980, and April 7, 1981. The 1973, composed of a preamble and 17 articles, provides for the shift from presidential to parliamentary system of government. The Constitution vests the legislative power in the National Assembly. Preamble. We, the sovereign Filipino people, imploring the aid of divine providence in order to establish a government that shall embody our ideals, promote the general welfare, conserve and develop the patrimony of our property, the blessings of democracy under a regime of justice, peace, liberty, and equality, do ordain and promulgate this Constitution. So now, let's proceed to the 17 articles. First article would be the national territory. The national territory comprises the Philippine archipelago with all the islands and waters embraced therein, and all the other territories belonging to the Philippines by the historic or legal time. Second article, the declaration of the principles and state policies. The state shall promote social justice to ensure the dignity, welfare, and security of all the people. Toward this end, the state shall regulate the acquisition, ownership, use, enjoyment, and disposition of private property and equitably diffuse property ownership and profits. Third article, the citizens. The following are the citizens of the Philippines. Those who are citizens of the Philippines are at the time of the adoption of this Constitution. Second, those whose fathers or mothers are citizens of the Philippines. Third, those who elect Philippine citizenship pursuant to the provision of the Constitution of the 1935. And lastly, those who are naturalized in accordance with the law. Fourth article, the Bill of Rights. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures of whatever purpose shall not be violated, and no search warrant or warrant of arrest shall issue except upon probable cause to be determined by the judge. Fifth article, duties and obligation of citizens. It shall be the duty of the citizen to be loyal to the Republic and to honor the Philippine flag, to defend the state and contribute to its development and welfare, to uphold the Constitution and obey the laws, and to cooperate with the duty constituted authorities in the attainment and preservation of just and orderly society. Next article would be the suffrage. Suffrage shall be exercised by the citizens of the Philippines not otherwise disqualified by law, who are 18 years of age or over, and who shall have resided in the Philippines for at least 1 year and in the place wherein the proposed to vote for at least 6 months preceding the elections. Next article will be the President and Vice President. The President shall be the head of state and chief executive of the Republic of the Philippines. The Vice President shall be elected with and in the same manner as the President. Next article would be the National Assembly. The National Assembly shall be composed of as many members as may be provided by the law, to be appointed among the provinces, representatives, districts, and cities in accordance with the number of their respective inhabitants and on the basis of a uniform and progressive ratio. Next article, the 9th, would be the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. The Prime Minister and the Cabinet shall be responsible to the National Assembly for the program of government and shall determine the guidelines of national policy. The 10th article, the judiciary. The judicial power shall be used in one Supreme Court and in such inferior as may be established by law. The Bataang Pambansa shall have the power to define, prescribe, and apportion the jurisdiction of the various courts, but may not deprive the Supreme Court of its jurisdiction. 11th Article. The local government. Each local government unit shall have the power to create its own sources of revenue, area to levy taxes, subjects to limitations as may be provided by law. Next article would be the constitutional commissions. We have 4. First, common provisions. The Constitutional Commission shall be the Civil Service Commissions, the Commissions on Elections, and the Commissions on Audit. Second, the Civil Service Commission. No office of employees in the civil service shall be suspended or dismissed except for cause provided by law. Second, commissions on elections. Third, there shall be an independent commission, elections composed of a chairman and 8 commissions who shall be natural-born citizens of the Philippines and at the time of their appointment at least 35 years of age and holders of college degree. However, a majority thereof, including the chairman, shall be a member of the Philippines bar who have been engaged in the practice of law for at least 10 years. And lastly, commission on audit. There shall be an independent commission on audit composed of a chairman and 2 commissions who shall be natural-born citizens of the Philippines and at the time of their appointment at least 40 years of age and certified public accountants or members of the Philippine Bar for at least 10 years. Next article, accounting of public officers. Public office is a public trust. Public officers and employees shall serve with the highest degree of responsibility, integrity, loyalty, and efficiency and shall remain accountable to the people. The 15th article, the national economy and the patrimony of the nation. The state may, in the interests of the national welfare or defense, establish and operate in industries and means of transportation and communication, and upon payment of just compensation, transfer to public ownership and utilities and other private enterprises to be operated by the government. 16th article, amendments. Any amendment to our revision of this constitution shall be valid when ratified by a majority of the votes cast in the plebiscite, which shall be held not later than 3 months after the approval of such amendment or revision. And last article would be transitory provisions. All existing laws not inconsistent with this constitution shall remain operative until amended, modified, or repealed by the National Assembly.
The Philippines Constitution 1987. The Philippines renounces war as an instrument of national policy, adopts the generally accepted the principle of international law as part of the law of the land, and adheres the policy of peace, equality, justice, freedom, cooperation, and amity with all nations. It established a representative democracy with 3 power divided among 3 separated independent branches of the government: the executive, the bicameral legislature, and its judiciary. In demasculining the dictatorship and restoring democratic institution, the 1987 Constitution is restoring democratic institution. It provides that civilian authority is at all times supreme over the military, and it also provided that the armed forces of the Philippines is the protector of the people and the state. The main purpose of 1987 Constitution
is the goal to secure the sovereignty of the state and integrity of the national territory. And the 1987 Constitution is all about the preamble. So here it is. We, the sovereign Filipino people, imploring the aid of Almighty God in order to build a just and humane society and establish a government that shall embody our ideals and aspirations to promote the common good, to conserve and develop our patrimony and secure to ourselves, our posterity, the blessings of independence and democracy under the rule of law, the regime of truth, justice, freedom, love, equality, and peace, to ordain and promulgate this Constitution.
Tax law in the Philippines covers national and local taxes. National taxes refers to national internal revenue taxes imposed and collected by the national government through the Bureau of International Revenue or BIR, and local taxes refer to those imposed and collected by the local government. It is very important because the Philippine government relies heavily on tax revenue to fund its operations and finance its development projects. They also help promote economic stability and growth. There are four main types of national internal revenue taxes: income, indirect, excise, and documentary stamp taxes. First is an income tax. It is a tax imposed on individuals or entities in respect of the income or profits earned by them. Income tax generally is computed as the product of a tax rate times the taxable income. Taxation rates may vary by type or characteristics of the taxpayer and the type of income. An indirect tax is a tax that is imposed on a transaction. Contrast this with the direct tax, which is tax imposed already on a property and are typically added to the prices of goods or services. An excise or excise tax is any duty on manufactured goods that is levied at the moment of manufacture rather than at sale. So, customs also are levied in goods that became taxable items at the border. It is levied on goods that came into existence inland. Documentary stamp tax is a tax on documents, instruments, loan agreements, and papers evidencing the acceptance, assignment, sale, or transfer of an obligation, right, or proper incident thereto.